So next, we're going to welcome Ed, the co-founder and chief scientist from Arbitrum, as well as OffchainLabs, as well as tech lead from HashKey Capital, Jeffrey Hu. With this session,
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, Mia. And yeah, I'm Jeff from HashKey Capital. I'm doing all the technical things for the HashKey Capital. And today, we are very happy to have Ed to join us for this fireside chat about the future of Layer 2 and Layer 3, because we see that's a really hot topic. So Ed, why not we start from a short introduction about yourself and also maybe the Arbitrum.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ed. I'm a co-founder and chief scientist at OffchainLabs. Before OffchainLabs, I was an academic at Princeton University for about 30 years. And I also served in the US government 3 times, probably most notably the last 2 years of the Obama administration. I was a senior advisor to the president and deputy chief technology officer of the United States. But now I'm doing crypto.
Great, thank you, Ed. So for today's topic is because we are talking about Layer 2 and Layer 3. So maybe I want to start from the Arbitrum itself, because we see there's a lot of the attractions of the Arbitrum recently, like stylus, bold. So because before this panel, when I was having a meeting with Ed, so Ed is talking about topics. So one of the hottest topics maybe the stylus. So,
sure.
Ed, can you share us maybe some more information about the stylus?
Sure.
Because it just announced like several weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So, can you share us more about the stylus? What is and what's in the future?
Yeah, I think stylus is a really important development in the in programmability of Layer 2 and Layer 3 chains. What it does is it gives the ability to write a smart contract in a traditional language like Rust, C, or C++, compile it to WebAssembly, but then, and here's the crucial part, install it on an EVM chain. So rather than having separate silos with EVM contracts over here and WASM contracts over there, or having the WASM contracts run in a different layer, instead they really run in a single environment, and they're able to interoperate and compose together however you want to do it. So this means, for example, you can do things like take an existing EVM contract, and if it's programmed in an upgradable way using what's called the proxy upgrade pattern, you can upgrade it into a stylus program written in WASM. So what are the advantages of this? One is that you can bring on board a lot more developers, because the number of developers experienced in a language like Rust, say, is about 150 times the number who have experience programming in Solidity or Viper, the usual EVM languages. You can also use the compilers, debugging tools, and all of the much more mature tools in those legacy languages, as well as software libraries from there. And again, you don't have to go into a separate silo to do this. And then, maybe my favorite part as a measurement nerd is that stylus programs run typically 10 to 15 times faster than EVM. So all of this without needing to give up interoperability, and this will be available as an upgrade on all Arbitrum chains soon. There's currently a stylus testnet, which you can check out. It's been our most used and fastest adopted testnet so far.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ed. And besides of stylus, actually, there's another very useful, how to say that, maybe service you can see in the Arbitrum. It's called bold, B-O-L-D. So what is that? And can you share us more about the bold and what it's like? And
Sure. This one is a little bit more technical, but it's important because it goes to the core decentralization of the protocol. So bold is the next iteration of the fraud-proof or dispute resolution protocol on Arbitrum. And what it does is the important effect of bold is that it makes it safe to make the validator role in the protocol permissionless. So what this means is once the validation, so currently validation is done by around 10 different well-known companies, and as long as at least one of them is participating in the protocol honestly, then you get a guarantee of correctness. But when we move to fully permissionless validation, then all we need is one honest person in the world participating in the protocol, and you get a guarantee of a correct outcome. So that's a very strong guarantee. And so Bold is able to make this possible by basically changing the way that disputes among validators are resolved to make it much more efficient, and in particular, to give a fixed cap on how long a dispute can go on, no matter how many parties are involved in the dispute or how many different claims are being adjudicated. So it's a big step forward at this sort of technical level of the protocol, but bottom line, it means that that security guarantee that you yourself, even as a retail user, acting alone can force correct outcome, even if everyone else in the world is trying to stop you. That's the strongest security guarantee you could ask for. And that will become available. So Bold we've published the code, it's been through security audit, and it's in the pipeline eventually to get, most likely within a few months, adopted by the main Arbitrum 1 chain.
Okay, I see. That's also quite useful. So back to the maybe today's topic. So we're talking about layer 2 and layer 3. So how do you see which kind of the factor is quite essential for successful for layer 3? Like, because we see there's lots of developing framework like Orbit and maybe other layer 2 like OBStack and other development frameworks. So how do you see there's a successful is essential for the success for the list?
Sure. There are a lot of people now who want to be able to deploy their own chains. And this is going to get a lot easier as these stacks become available and as we see roll-up as a service providers starting to become more mature. But the key question is who should launch their own roll-up and what are the benefits of doing it? I think you have to admit that there are costs and complexities involved with having a separate chain as opposed to being on the same chain. There's a little bit of friction. But what you get is the ability to customize things in a way that you couldn't do if you're on a public shared chain. So for example, if you have a business model that has different economics around the chain, maybe you want to have proof of stake tokenomics with your token, or maybe you want to have lower fees and some kind of subscription model. Whatever it is, if you have a different economic model, you might choose to have your own chain. You might want to have different governance because you want to impose different rules, say, on who can participate in your chain. But I think the key guideline is if what you want to do can be done within the flexibility of a public shared chain, it probably makes sense to build your functionality as an application on that chain. That's going to be easier, it's going to be cheaper, and you're going to have the advantage of interoperating with a large body of users and a large pool of liquidity on that public chain. If what you need is more custom, then I think it can make sense to have your own chain. And we, of course, in the Arbitrum team want to support both as best we can.
Okay, I see. And for maybe for another very important role in the layer 2 and layer 3 ecosystem is sequencers. So because we also noticed that there's recent news about the Arbitrum is collaborating with Espresso to have this kind of decentralized sequencers. So how do you see this kind of the current sequencer ecosystem? Because there's a lot of centralized sequencers still exist in the industry. So do you see this as a feature or maybe it's a bug for the current modular ecosystem?
Yeah.
How do you see that?
I think there are two big areas of change that are going to come to sequencing on Arbitrum. One of them is ethical capture of MEV value, that is capturing some of the value from transaction ordering, but without allowing front running or sandwiching or other kinds of harmful extractive types of MEV. And so that is probably going to be available sooner. The more difficult technical problem is making available distributed sequencing that is able to provide the same kind of protection against front running and sandwiching type activities and can operate with the fast response time that people have become accustomed to on Arbitrum. And that's really what the OffchainLabs research partnership with Espresso Systems is about. It's about producing jointly a decentralized sequencing approach that maintains those good features of the current centralized sequencer and that people can rely on. And so then that will become an option for Arbitrum chains. We'll probably have other additional options available. The Arbitrum DAO will decide what will happen on the main Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova chains. But people who are launching their own chains, if you're launching your own chain, you have the choice of how you'd like this to work. And our mission is just to make sure that you have good choices available to you.
Okay, I see. As today's time is running up, and at last I just call up for the audience to give a big applause for the ad for the sharing.
Thank you.